Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going to tackle a topic that might seem kind of mundane at first glance, but trust me, it's way more fascinating than you think. We're talking about money.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, we all use it every day, right? But how often do we actually stop and think, really think about what money is and how it works?
Yeah, it's one of those things that's just like always there,
No.
kind of like oxygen essential but easily overlooked.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're going to use the Wikipedia article on money as our jumping off point.
Yeah, it might seem basic, but trust us, this article is packed with mind-blowing ideas.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the first things that kind of jumps out at you when you really dig into it is just how abstract this whole concept of money really is.
Right, like on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward. I give you money, you give me stuff.
Yeah, simple transaction.
But the Wikipedia article lays out these like three main functions of money:
Yeah.
medium of exchange, unit of account, and store of value. And to be honest, it all sounds a bit jargony, Like, what does that actually mean in like real life?
Well, think about it this way. When you buy something, anything, you're using money as a medium of exchange. You're essentially swapping those bills or, digital credits for goods or services.
Right, right.
And when you compare prices, you're using money as that unit of account to measure value. Is this thing worth more or less than that thing? And then when you save money, you're hoping it'll hold its value over time, right?
Yeah.
That's the store of value function.
Okay, that definitely makes it a bit more tangible. But there's another thing that's always tripped me up. This whole idea of fiat currency, it sounds so mysterious.
Yeah.
What makes it different from, say, using like gold coins?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of how money has evolved over time. So historically, money was often tied to something tangible, right? Like gold or silver. That's called commodity money.
Right, like the value of the gold coin, the value of the gold itself.
Yeah, exactly. But fiat currency, like the dollars and euros we use today, is different. It's not backed by any physical commodity. Its value comes from, well, basically trust. Trust in the government that issued it, and trust in the stability of the economy as a whole.
So wait, are you saying it's all like made up? Like we're all just pretending these pieces of paper have value?
Well, it's not exactly pretending. It's more like a shared agreement. We, as a society, collectively decide to accept this fiat currency as a medium of exchange. And as long as that trust holds, it works.
That's kind of a wild concept, isn't it? Like our entire financial system is built on this collective belief.
It is, and it's a system that's been surprisingly resilient. But, history shows us that when that trust erodes, things can go south pretty quickly. Think hyperinflation, currency collapses, that kind of stuff.
Yikes. Okay, so before we get too deep into the modern stuff, I'm curious about how we even go to this point. Like, how did money evolve from, say, trading chickens for baskets of grain?
Ugh, the good old days of barter. Imagine a world without money. You need a haircut, but the barber only wants eggs.
Oh, man.
So you have to find someone who'll trade eggs for, I don't know, your carpentry skills, then trade those eggs to the barber. It was incredibly inefficient.
Sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It was, and that's why over time, people started using readily available goods with inherent value as a medium of exchange. We call this commodity money. It could be anything, really. Shells, livestock, even grains of barley, as the Wikipedia article mentions.
Wait, so I could have paid my rent in barley back in the day?
Well, maybe. It depended on whether your landlord was into brewing beer, I guess.
Okay, so commodity money, like, solve some problems.
Yeah, definitely. It was a big step up from barter. But even commodity money had its limits. Like, imagine lugging around sacks of grain to buy a house.
Yeah, no thanks.
And that's where coins came in. They were way more portable, durable, and divisible. Much easier to handle than a flock of sheep, right?
Right, right. And those early coins were still tied to a commodity like gold or silver, weren't they?
Absolutely. The Wikipedia article mentions Lydian coins from the 7th century BC. They were made of electrum, which is a naturally occurring mix of gold and silver.
So it's like those little standardized pieces of metal directly replace those sacks of barley.
Yep, pretty much. And as societies got more complex, their money systems did too. The article talks about ancient India having this three-tiered coin system with gold, silver, and copper coins, each with its own purpose.
Wow, that's like surprisingly sophisticated for back then. So it seems like things were running pretty smoothly with coins and eventually paper money.
For a while, yeah. But there were still those inherent limitations of physically carrying around currency.
Right, right.
And that led to another interesting development: representative money. This is where paper money or certificates started to represent a specific amount of a commodity, like gold, held in reserve.
So instead of carrying around a heavy bag of gold coins, you could just carry a piece of paper that basically said, I have this much gold stashed away somewhere.
Exactly. Way more convenient, right? And it paved the way for what we have today, fiat currency, where the value isn't directly tied to any physical commodity, but to that shared trust we talked about earlier.
Wow, it's amazing how money's evolved over time. From barley to gold coins to pieces of paper, and now, well, we're even starting to move beyond physical money altogether with digital currencies.
Right. But even with all these changes, some fundamental principles still apply. And one of the most fascinating is this thing called Gresham's Law. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely. It's something about bad money drives out good, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I fully get what that means.
It's a pretty simple idea, really, but with big implications. Imagine you've got two types of coins, one made of pure silver, the other made of a cheaper metal, but with the same face value. Which one would you be more likely to spend?
Probably the cheaper one. I mean, silver's worth more, so I'd probably hold on to that.
Exactly. And that's Gresham's Law in action. People tend to hoard the more valuable form of money, while the less valuable stuff keeps circulating.
So in a way, that bad money, even though it's technically worth less, becomes the dominant currency because everyone's trying to get rid of it.
Yep, that's the irony. And this principle applies even to modern money. Think about those old silver quarters in the U.S., the ones minted before 1965. They're actually worth more as silver than their face value, so people tend to hold on to them, while the newer copper nickel quarters are the ones we actually use.
That's a really cool example. I never thought of it that way.
It shows how even something as seemingly simple as money is influenced by human behavior.
Totally. So we've covered a lot of ground here. The basic functions of money, how it's evolved over time, and this whole Gresham's Law thing. But I'm wondering, how does all this apply to us, regular people just trying to get by in the modern world?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll dive into deeper in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, good, because my head's about to explode with all this info.
But even at this stage, just understanding these fundamentals of money can help us make better financial decisions.
So it's not just about knowing how to, balance a checkbook or pick stocks.
Right. It's about understanding the bigger picture, the systems that drive our financial world.
I'm already feeling a little more empowered and a lot more informed.
Good. We're just getting started.
Can't wait to see what else we uncover.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork here, traced the evolution of money from those sacks of barley to those shiny gold coins to those little pieces of paper we're all so familiar with.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Right. It's amazing how much history is packed into, every dollar bill.
Absolutely. And speaking of dollars, let's shift gears and talk about the modern monetary landscape, like the stuff that's impacting our lives right now.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. But honestly, I'm a little intimidated by all this talk of, monetary policy and central banks and stuff. It feels very official and complicated.
I get it. It can seem like this whole secret world operating behind the scenes, right? But it's actually not that complicated. Think of central banks like the referees of a financial game.
Okay, I can kind of picture that.
They set the rules, try to keep things fair and balanced, and step in when, things start getting out of hand. Their main tool is something called monetary policy, which is essentially how they try to influence the economy.
By doing what? Printing more money?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. They control things like interest rates and the money supply, those levers you mentioned earlier.
Oh, right. So when interest rates go up or down, that's the central bank at work.
Exactly. By tweaking those levers, they try to keep inflation in check, encourage borrowing and spending when needed, or sometimes cool things down if the economy is overheating.
So they have a pretty big responsibility then, huh?
They do, and when they get it wrong, well, that's when we see things like recessions or, in extreme cases, those currency collapses we talked about earlier.
Yeah, those currency substitutions where people lose faith in their own money and start using something else.
Exactly. It's a reminder that these aren't just theoretical concepts. They have real-world consequences.
Totally. Okay, so central banks, monetary policy, got it. What about all this digital currency stuff? It's like a whole other layer of complexity on top of everything else.
It is, and it's moving so fast. But at its core, digital currency is simply a new form of money. It exists and operates electronically. No physical coins or bills involved.
So instead of carrying around those dollar bills, it's all just ones and zeros flying around the internet.
Pretty much, yeah. And this digital nature brings both amazing opportunities and some serious challenges. On the one hand, digital currencies can make transactions faster, cheaper, and more accessible, especially for people who, don't have easy access to traditional banks.
That's huge, like opening up the financial system to people who've been excluded before.
Exactly. But then there are concerns about security, volatility. I mean, we all know how wildly those crypto prices can swing, right?
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster.
And then there's the potential for misuse, for illicit activities. And this is where governments and regulations come into play.
So are they trying to, like, control this digital money revolution?
It's more about finding the right balance. Some governments are even exploring creating their own digital currencies.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Like government-backed crypto?
Yep, exactly. It's called a central bank digital currency, or CBDC for
The
short.
CBDCs, got it.
Yeah.
So are we all going to be using, like, digital dollars or digital euros instead of cash someday?
It's definitely a possibility, and it raises all sorts of questions about privacy, security, the role of their central banks we talked about. It's a big, complex issue.
Yeah, no kidding. And it seems like this whole digital currency thing is forcing us to rethink what money, even to eyes, is it still just a medium of exchange, or is it becoming something more?
Right. I mean, some people see cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin as this revolutionary force that can, decentralize finance and challenge those traditional institutions.
Like sticking into the man, right?
Kind of, yeah. But others see it as just another form of investment, like digital gold, purely speculative.
So is it a revolution or just a gamble?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's this uncertainty that makes the future of money so fascinating. Right?
Totally. And as these digital currencies evolve and become more integrated into our lives, I can only imagine the ripple effects,
Yeah.
like changing how we interact with each other, how governments operate, everything.
Absolutely. It's like we're witnessing the birth of a whole new financial era, and it's both exciting and a little bit scary.
For sure.
Oh.
Okay, so we've gone from ancient barter to gold coins, paper money, and now digital currencies. And it all circles back to this idea that money is this, like, social construct, right?
It is. Money is only worth what we collectively agree it's worth.
Right, like a shared story we talked about earlier. And if people stop believing in that story, well, the whole system can crumble.
Exactly. It's not just about economics, it's about psychology, sociology, even politics. It's intertwined with every aspect of human society.
Mind-blowing. So understanding money isn't just about, like, managing our own personal finances. It's about understanding how the world works.
I think that's a great way to put it.
It makes you realize how much power we have collectively to shape the future of money.
Absolutely. The more we understand these systems and the stories we've created around money, the better equipped we are to, write new chapters and build a better financial future.
I love that. Okay, so now I'm ready to talk about that future. What trends should we be paying attention to? What's on the horizon?
Well, that's a perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive.
Let's do it. Okay, so we've journeyed from, like, the ancient world of barley-based economies all the way to this crazy world of digital currencies.
It's been quite a ride.
Right, it's like we've time traveled through the evolution of money.
And the journey's not over yet.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so exciting. So let's talk about the future of money. Like, what's coming next? What trends should we be paying attention to?
Well, one trend that's really shaking things up is this thing called decentralized finance, or DeFi for short.
DeFi. Sounds kind of futuristic, almost like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of is. DeFi basically aims to create a whole financial system that's open and transparent and accessible to everyone.
Without those traditional gatekeepers like banks.
Exactly. No more middlemen. And it uses blockchain technology to make it happen.
Oh, right. Like the same tech behind Bitcoin and all that.
Yep. Exactly. Imagine a world where you could borrow money, lend money, invest, all without going through a bank. It's all done through these secure and transparent platforms.
It was like democratizing finance in a way.
Yeah.
Giving people more control over their own money.
That's the idea, especially for folks who, haven't always had equal access to financial services.
Yeah.
But, it's still early days for DeFi. There are definitely challenges to overcome, like regulatory hurdles and just getting people to understand how it all works.
Right, right. It's like any new technology. It takes time for people to get comfortable with it, to trust it.
Exactly. And speaking of trust, another trend that's really interesting is the emergence of central bank digital currencies.
CBDCs, right?
Yep. We touched on this a bit earlier.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned governments exploring their own, government-backed cryptocurrencies.
Exactly. It's happening all over the world, from China to, even the U.S. is looking into it.
So Could we see a future where, like, everyone's using digital dollars or digital euros instead of physical cash?
It's possible. And it raises all sorts of questions, about privacy, security, the role of central banks. It's a huge topic.
Yeah, no kidding. And it seems like all of this, the DeFi stuff, the CBDCs, it's all making us rethink, like, the fundamental nature of money.
It is. I mean, what is money in a digital world, right?
Right, exactly. Is it still just a tool for buying stuff, or is it becoming something more?
Yeah, that's the big question. And the answer might be different for different people.
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I'd say this. The future of money is unwritten. It's a story that's still unfolding, and, we all have a role to play in shaping it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just about watching it happen. It's about actively participating, making choices that will shape this financial future.
Exactly. And that starts with understanding how we got here, the history of money, the systems that govern it, and the forces that are driving these changes.
Right, like all the stuff we've been talking about today.
Exactly. Because once we understand the past and the present, we can start to imagine and create a better future.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, folks, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the fascinating world of money.
From barley to Bitcoin, it's been quite a journey.
And as always, we encourage you to continue exploring this topic. Keep those minds curious and stay engaged with all the amazing changes happening in the world of finance.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive. Signing off,